Let's talk about religiousness. Religiousness? Let's talk about the difference between religion and a religious spirit. Religion is the understanding that a congregation gets together, they meet up, they have the same belief, they have community, they have a certain set of standards within the religion that they follow, practices. For example, in their Christian faith, right? You go to church on Sundays, usually some people believe in Saturday as a Sabbath, and they meet with the congregation, and sometimes they have Bible studies, they fast, they pray, they follow God's moral standards, they follow God's character within decision making, right? And which is interesting because I've observed in my own life that there are people that are very blessed that do not practice following God, and the reason that they are blessed is because they're acting within God's moral law. And naturally, because of the laws of the land, the laws of this earth that God implemented, naturally those people are blessed because they are still in alignment with God's spirit, even if they don't acknowledge him. Okay, so that is religion, right? Religious spirit is now a completely different thing, because somebody that is a religious spirit, if we take it back to when Jesus was walking the earth and his experience with the Pharisees of his time, a lot of what he was teaching them was about maintaining God's standards to perfection while also being very loving, not allowing religion to block one from expressing love, right? And a good example of this is in the New Testament, where it's the Sabbath day, right? So it's the day of rest. It's where none of the servants worked. It's where none of the people worked on the Sabbath. It was out of respect for God to rest on that day. Like, yes, respect the Sabbath, respect God, respect his law. But in a moment of somebody needing help or somebody needing love or an expression of something, like, don't hesitate to give that to them because of your fear of religion. If you know God's character, you would know that God would value you helping someone, even if it is on the day of rest. That's a biblical example, but a religious spirit can manifest itself in various ways in our time, just like in that time. People with religious spirits can shame you and make you feel like you're out of alignment with God. It couldn't be further from the truth, because as long as you're walking with God and you're acknowledging him in all of your ways and you're respecting his moral laws and you are in prayer with him and you are in communion, right? Your walk is not always going to look like someone else's walk. Do not let religious people deter you from your relationship with God, your God-given right to have relationship with the Creator. It is the most sacred, most beautiful thing you can do. And just because somebody has ever made you feel less than for where you are in your life and your walk with God, it does not make that true. Maybe your life doesn't look like everyone else's, but where you are is where God needs you, and God can change your life from one day to the next, from the pit to the palace. And if God has you where you're at, as much as you're praying, as much as you're fasting, as much as you're seeking him, it's for a reason. And so just don't let religious people and people that are judging you and criticizing you or making you feel like you don't matter, don't believe those things. With that being said, righteous judgment is something Jesus calls us to, right? In Matthew, we see that Jesus first calls out hypocrisy by saying, you tried to help your brother taking out the speck of his eye, like a little speck, right? But you have a log in your own eye. And then he calls them a hypocrite. And he says, first remove the log, okay, a big tree log from your own eye, and then you can see clearly to help your brother remove the speck from his eye, right? So righteous judgment comes in where, out of a loving place, you see that somebody is walking out of alignment with God, and you know that it's gonna destroy their lives. You know that they are gonna hurt themselves, they're gonna hurt others, and out of a place of love and out of a place of non-hypocrisy, knowing and looking at yourself and seeing that you yourself are not acting within that same sinful nature, right? Taking that information to this person and teaching them and saying, hey, you're going down the wrong path. You need to turn back. You need to go in a different direction, because where you're headed is towards destruction, and that's going to affect your life. Out of a place of righteous judgment, out of love, you are more than welcome to correct your brother or sister in Christ. But if it's not coming from a place of love and it's coming from a place of criticism or shame or condemnation, God does not like condemnation. We are not God to be condemning people to hell or be condemning people and telling them that they're a lost cause. Because while someone is still alive and breathing, they are not a lost cause. God can transform hearts and minds in moments. That is not our place to make people feel otherwise. That is satanic, and that goes against God's character. So I tell you these things because even Jesus said, I send you out into the world as sheep amongst the wolves. And then there's another saying of like, be careful of those in sheep's clothing that disguise themselves as sheep but are wolves ready to just devour you, right? Because people can pretend to be one way one moment and another they are Satan trapped in the body. So don't place anyone on a pedestal just because they believe in God. Let me tell you why. The reason why you should never place somebody that even believes in God and has a good moral standing and is a righteous person on a pedestal is because human beings fail. Even if they are walking in alignment and they are doing their very best and they are highly spiritually attuned and they have respect for God and they acknowledge God in all of their ways, even then we're still human. We still make mistakes. And if you put somebody on a pedestal and they fail you, that can leave a tainted impression of God. Like, yes, we're an expression of God, but we are not perfect the way Jesus was perfect, and we are not perfect the way God is perfect. He calls us to that perfection, but that is a process. And so along the journey, people are going to fall, people are going to stumble, and much less don't place people that don't have God in their lives on a pedestal, because then you're just placing Satan on a pedestal, and that is cause for destruction of your soul in this lifetime, and that's not what you want here. What you want here is to build your spirit strong in God so that in the afterlife your spirit is ready to go towards perfection. Your spirit is ready to go towards the energy that is love and perfection and godly. If you don't prepare your spirit here in this world, then you're going to go to hell, because the spirit has been tainted and wicked and is comfortable with hell here on earth. That is exactly where the afterlife is going to meet you. So if you're experiencing hell on earth, and I don't mean trials and tribulations, I mean literal hell on earth, and you feel like earth is hell manifested, that's because you've allowed the devil into your atmosphere for far too long, and his manifestation is all around you in your life. Out of righteousness, fruit is bared, right? So like when you are a righteous person, even unknowingly, there are going to be consequences to that, positive consequences. But if you are walking in unrighteousness, even unknowingly, there are going to be negative consequences to walking in unrighteousness, and your life will be an expression of that. Hope you learned something. Thanks for watching.